good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this world. We are here again, Larry and I,
Yes.
um, talking about another topic. And Larry is visiting here, so we spent hours talking and all these
Yes.
ideas. And we were just talking about the value of time in general and maybe in some details as well in
Yes.
different
Yep.
situations. Um, how do we value our time and how do we value our time? Or how do we dismiss time as just something that just goes by and maybe miss opportunities to
hmm
love or to be
Well, I know
successful?
that we kind of stirred out of this conversation from the concept that what is the value of time? Let's suppose you have 60 seconds with somebody. Are you valuing that time intentionally to be fully present, to be centered upon the presence of God first, so that the highest gain can be met through that 60 seconds? And you're living it every day. Yep, it's like it's unfolding every day. Well, the time I had the chance to connect with somebody on the phone, or the time where I stopped and looked at a text. One of the things that I find, especially with all the technology that we're dealing with today, and the way we're engaging with people, is I would say that 9 times out of 10, the people don't even read the response. But if you choose to be intentional in it, and you see that, oh, they're asking me this. Respond with intention, not a quick emoji.
Hmm.
Come back and invest the spiritual attunement or an awareness of the divine within you to say, hey, they just reached out of the blue. Hey, it's great. So you can bring an intentional response to it that's not just a quick off the cuff dismissal. And yeah, I got your message. See you later. Talk to you soon. And so if we started to look at those situations or opportunities of engagement, are we honestly presenting the opportunity for the highest result or gain within that engagement?
Hmm.
And then, like what you found in the card you pulled or whatever, it's like, yeah, it's a certain value right now, but what if something extreme happened?
Hmm.
What if all of a sudden you didn't have that person in your life anymore? But you were given what was it, the permission to have a phone call with them after they're gone, and you were permitted 60 seconds. How important would that 60 seconds be for you right now,
Hmm.
knowing you've already lost them, but you were permitted a phone call into their presence within the fullness of the divine? What would that 60 seconds be of value to you now after losing them? So you start to increase the level of importance and value in the measure of your time, how you're investing your thought process in it. Are you consumed in loss, or are you celebratory of the life that you experience with them? Are you consumed in what you're not going to have, or are you using that 60 seconds to its highest possible gain to convey the love that you share with them? The loving possibility that they would be elevated within their experience and their spiritual journey that would just blow their understanding of all things into the fullness of grace and glory as you then return into your life upon the earth. So, again, if we look at this, what is the value of that time? Not just what is the value of it, what am I participating in that brings forward a higher value? Am I easily drawn into the sake of gossiping and drawing negative upon other people? Or do I find a way to look at this and say, okay, well, what can we do to speak for them? I mean, I know you're saying they're really negative, they're down. So what can we do to speak for them to elevate their possibility in this journey? What could that 60-second engagement do for the sake of those people still on the planet, or people in their spiritual journey, or people in depths of need? Instead of joining with them in their suffering, sitting and giving God 60 seconds to say, okay, what am I going to do for my next 60 seconds? Allow for God to form within you the living words for your friend or your person in need or the person that wants to come against you. Then engage the 60 seconds with them and possibility of elevating the circumstance.
In your example of a loss, or where you want to reconcile what you should have or could have told that person
Yep.
that you don't have anymore, 60 seconds is probably not going to be enough. Because usually
Right.
you're like, oh my goodness, I have so much to say and to share that I
Yep.
didn't. And maybe you even feel guilty about it,
hmm
that I missed that opportunity to.
Well, that's what I meant by, are you going to be mired in grief or
Yeah,
guilt or
yeah,
sadness? Or you're going to take, no, I want the 60 seconds to convey the love that I held for them
Yeah.
and hold for them.
Yeah, but so now, but if we now roll back to being with that person, and I want to make an effort to really value the time with that
Yep,
person, really make most out of
exactly.
it. Doesn't that start with understanding that person first?
Well, I think we were speaking previously on a video that we were talking about the value of not just the time, but the ability to heighten your ability to listen upon
Hmm.
their need, not just about what they might need, but the story that brought them to that point of that need. Sometimes you need to hear the full expression. And one of the things that I've learned and developed as questions when somebody says something to me is my immediate response to just kind of look at them and say, okay, well, help me understand more.
Hmm.
Or as it progresses and they've shared a little bit more, okay, well, help me understand what brought you to this conclusion. Or
Yeah,
help me to grasp what motivated you to even bring up this idea.
that's active listening.
Exactly. Yeah, because you're drawing out more because I mean, even from a psychological or a psychiatric standpoint, the problem the person brings you is not the problem.
Hmm.
It's usually 3 to 7 deep. And in the heightened issues of our lives, it's usually the 7 deep. Not so important issues are kind of third deep because they hide the heightened ones deeper in themselves. So it does require that investment that, of the 60 seconds, I would rather listen for the 45, 50 seconds and then say what's on your heart now and how can I help you? And they can formulate that, I really need this. Larry, I really need prayer. Um, Usually we've already engaged in prayer, but now they've evidenced things that we can pray for and increase and move in a certain direction. So there is an importance of investing. What is the value of this time, whether it's 60 seconds, 5 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour, or in our case, that, hour and a half meeting where we came together with people for the the meeting of the author and the meet and greet event. It's like, what is the value of this time? What is the highest gain? And in all humility, I've learned in this process that the highest gain I can give is surrender to be nothing.
Hmm.
So that God's presence is there and that person is safe to share whatever's on their heart. And I've sat in a room with murderers or individuals that are in high crime situations in prison and stuff. I'm not there to judge them. I want to help them recognize what motivated them to this outcome.
You know, the word gain that you just mentioned is a dangerous word. It
Yeah.
could be misinterpreted, right? I mean, it's used all the time in business. Gain always kind of represents to me or to many people winning over
Okay.
another situation or winning over another person, right? I
Yep.
know you're talking about a different gain here,
Yep.
but I think this is really what we are confronting in life is a society that is gain oriented, winning
Yep.
oriented, right? And so you have a winner and you have a loser.
Well, then I'd like to borrow that word and take it back for the divine because, like in my intention of offering, there's what is the highest gain, not my gain, but
That
what
was,
is the highest gain within this process? So if you're turning the dial on the gain or the boost or
hmm.
whatever, what is the highest gain that is God within this conversation, God within these 60 seconds? So if we go back again to that person that we lost,
Yeah.
now we have a 60-second phone call after they're gone. The highest gain would be to convey how much we love them, how we are grateful for them, how much we love the fact that they are blessed in a new aspect of their journey. And if we celebratorily move into this ground of gain for them,
Hmm.
in other words, that is so beautiful that when you turn from this phone call, you're going to turn and look directly into the presence of loving God. And the highest gain would be to remind them that in the blessing of their, not trapped in my suffering, not trapped in my loss, but be blessed as you move forward in this journey. And I release ties and tendrils upon you. And I've mentioned that, you and I have talked about this a number of times. When I lost my eldest son, there was a reality where I had to look at it and say, okay, I'm not going to hold him back from the fullness of his journey before his God. I'm not going to lay ties and tendrils upon him and hold him locked into this earth. I'm going to surrender all that I have received in the fullness of gift of life that I received in the recognition of his presence upon this earth and the reality of the journey that's about to unfold on him. I am not going to allow myself trapped on a momentary instance when his life ended.
Hmm.
I would rather celebrate that which occurred and celebrate that which is to come. And in that reality, I am now in the present, which can bring the highest gain that is God's presence revealed, not my desires.
Hmm. I love that how you always put it into that gain into the perspective of
The
God
divine.
and the
Yeah.
divine, yeah.
Yeah.
And but I'm always struggling with then I want to bring it back to the practical thing. People are still with me. I have relationships and
Yep.
I want to really value that time. I really want to make it work well.
Yep.
So that I don't have to have that 60-second thought or conversation later on, like, oh, I should have or could have done
Agreed.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can we talk about that a little bit? So, I do, some people know I do weddings, premarital counseling with couples, and we often get to that point. The biggest conversation is really about how do you talk to each other,
Hmm.
you know? But it's not just for marriage, it's for any relationship that you have with people.
Hmm.
There is ways to can honor that time. Can we talk a little bit about
Well,
that?
let's be real about one something that, probably many people that in the witnessing the video might have to experience is a work setting where you're quite frankly pissed off, angry, or frustrated about something that's unfolding. Can you shed enough of yourself to say, God, I trust you first, and I enter this situation to search to find pure resolution, healing, and restoration within the setting. Now, obviously, a person's boss or an underling might not be able to handle that dialogue, but you can have that dialogue with you.
Hmm.
You can invest prior to that 17-minute or 12-minute engagement with a higher up or a person at a lower level in their corporation that you have to deal with or you must sit before. Can you allow yourself to increase the value of that time by shedding yourself, welcoming in the presence of God, and going in to say, help me understand? How did this begin to emerge? Where did the promises you made to me fall away and help me understand that? That's totally different than, I can't believe you just did that. So, what is the value of that relationship?
But what if the other person is not responsive to that style, that style of conversation that
It's
just,
still going to move the needle.
hmm.
You're still going to gain some sort of a response, whether it is negative or positive. And like you mentioned, dealing with marital situations and
Hmm.
stuff, if people in marriage in a blessed union close to one another are taught that whatever's being revealed is not there to offend you, it's there to equip you. So if the boss comes off left-handed about something or an underling comes off, defensive about something, don't take it in offense, heighten your listening skills. Say, it's obvious you don't want to hear what I say and you don't want to answer my question, but what's on your heart?
Mm.
Now, if you can go into that without offense, you can be poised to hear whatever they're going to say, even if they come out, they're coming out of the corner like they want to attack you, like a cornered raccoon or something. If you're willing to do that without offense, you've got the needle moving.
Mm.
So now all the stuff that they kept hidden from you that may have you made you act a certain way because you didn't know it was an issue. Now all of a sudden it's presented. Now we can deal with this. Now we can find this. And
Mm.
then you can ask for forgiveness for your oversight or your inability to understand what they were going through. And all of a sudden they go, what? You want me to forgive you for that? What? You're willing to accept it? Yeah, well, yeah, because I'm not offended by it. I want to understand what's going on so we can better our relationship as husband, wife, or as boss and worker, or as whatever to move up. Let's move up together with this and learn from it.
Do you think sometimes saying nothing is the way to go?
Yes, depending upon the dynamic. That one might not be permitted to be of nothing because you have a responsibility to another,
Right.
a working responsibility. When it comes to personal engagements, like you're talking about in a marriage union or whatever, nothing can be good in some places, but it also has to be with the understanding that you're not willing to hold it present anymore. Because if you're going to go silent, there's a difference between repression and suppression.
Mm.
To repress something out of anger, resentment, and Denial is totally different than I'm just going to let this sit for a time. Be patient.
Which would be suppress.
Yes,
Be
yeah.
patient.
You would calm it, let it sit until you sense that your spouse's heart opens and is willing to share.
Or your corporate your boss
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever situation,
Yep.
right?
Yep. And then in that place, still allow for the possibility that, nope, oh, she's waking. Not I need to say this or say that. No, draw her in or draw him in into the conversation. You first, intentionally, God, I surrender your daughter or your son to you. I surrender for the sake of your presence to come upon my tongue to bring healing and restoration within this time, or comfort. Maybe it doesn't need to be healed between you and her or you and him or whatever, but maybe they need something that you don't know yet. And
Mm.
it's healing between them and another. So if you can position them in a space of your listening, your presence, you're allowing God to flow through you, all of a sudden you can gift them with divine fortitude, God's presence within them, and now they can deal with that sensitive situation in their lives in a stronger, more stabilized way.
Mm. I think you told me once that what couples can do to practice silence, sit next
Hmm.
to each other, hold your hand,
Look
just
directly to
look into
God.
your
Yeah.
eyes, don't say a word,
Mm.
synchronize your breathing. I
Yep.
tell my couples that
Yep.
sometimes, and it is at first an uncomfortable situation
Yeah.
because you
Exactly.
want to giggle, you want to talk, you want to say something. Oh, it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's a good
But
practice.
the reality is, in humanity, we've corrupted the process
Yeah,
because that's called making love.
yeah,
It's not just a sexual engagement. It's honoring the person to say, you know, this 60 seconds I got with you is so important
yeah.
that I can sit with you and breathe. I can sit with you and wait a minute. Our breath is not timed together. Let's time our breath together.
Hmm.
And let's recognize that that breath is coming of God, and we have this gift of being as one. I am here to make love with you, not
Hmm.
to you.
Right.
It's like we are as one in this opportunity to make love. In other words, to reveal love, to exhibit glory in our union. And this moment, yes, and we giggle and laugh, and then we come forward and embrace, and then we come back in and we time the breath. That 60 seconds of investing in that would change the outcome of every relational
Hmm.
dialogue. Now, obviously, you're not going to do it with a boss. We're talking about with husband and
Right,
wife,
exactly.
or,
Yeah, yeah.
even with those that are close within our lives, our children. We could sit with our child and they may not be comfortable at first, but sit there and hold their hands and look directly at them
Mm.
and see them and then convey to them that as I see you, I am so grateful that God has blessed me to hold you in love throughout this life, to be with you in this life, to assist you and guide you in your journey. That in itself is going to like lock into a child
Hmm.
in a way that society doesn't,
Hmm.
you know.
So I understand that relationships start one-on-one, right? But if we now bring it to a greater context, societies, cultures, institutions,
Hmm.
religious institutions, corporate institutions, uh, systems of authority,
Yep.
be it religious or non-religious, it brings in a different dimension because you have all these different individuals
Yep.
that act differently but have to obey to the rules of a whole,
Hmm.
that either by authority that's given to them by authority or habit or whatever. So how, and we obviously have a problem with that, I think, in this world where authority is maybe misunderstood,
Hmm.
and therefore we have
Or received as a threat.
okay, yeah, yeah, that's probably better,
Yeah.
received as a threat.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about, beyond the one-on-ones that we just talked about now in a greater context, how we can help
Well, I
society
mean,
or this,
even when you look at from a corporate setting, it would require the same thing, active observance. Now, we talked about listening in a
right?
couple setting or an individual setting or something, but it would be active observance. Like, let's say, for instance, somebody just got pulled over for breaking the law.
Right.
Oh my God, people immediately go into fear. So their fear response. And then they got to protect this and they got to, no, no, don't respond. Don't say anything. It all of a sudden becomes this shut down place.
Hmm.
What if you engage first in prayer and just trust that what's going to unfold is going to unfold? Like I've been pulled over in a couple times in my life. When I was younger, I got tickets. When I was older, I don't. I engage first in prayer and offer thanksgiving for the opportunity to meet and greet this individual. I've had one officer that allowed me to pray over him first before we engaged.
Hmm. Or maybe you're,
No paperwork, no nothing afterwards. Hey, I
maybe,
just wanted you to know this happened.
I was just going to say, maybe your car doesn't have the same horsepower than it had when you were 25. Just kidding. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it is about what is the value of this moment? And I know that you picked that as a theme for us, and I don't want to lose sight of that because what is the value of this moment? Yeah, I'm in a situation where all of a sudden I'm going to be staring at an officer, or I'm going to be dealing with a judge in a court system, or what is the value of this next moment of time? And what is the possible gain here? Again, not personal gain, but the divine gain in this moment. And even when I've dealt with judges in legal settings and stuff like that for others and for myself as well, even going through the process of divorce, the judge sitting there in tears on the bench because he had never heard of a situation in divorce where there was such love and the opportunity to move somebody forward in blessing.
Hmm.
And in shock, not knowing how to process it because he's not used to seeing that in the societal norms. But
Hmm.
by seeking God first, the blessed result in that was a judge that was in tears, in awe. If there was oh my God, there's encouragement within humanity that this can happen.
Yeah.
So it wasn't for my personal gain or to make me look a certain way. It was to look to encourage a person that sits upon the bench in authority in such a way it was unexpected to his norms. And he rewrote the order to go in a different direction. So it's available to us in every situation, every setting, even if we're coming before somebody that, like when I was younger, dealing with a high tech corporation that was like hypersensitive on security and stuff. I did not react appropriately in it. I became fearful and defensive about the outcome, and my reaction was not good, which then magnified into the corporate body.
Hmm.
What if I had approached, okay, help me understand. Where's the line that I breached? How can that be changed in the future? Are you interested in holding me here present to see it changed, or are you done with me? But to do that without offense is a totally different approach than me. I'm going to lose my livelihood. I'm going to, scrambling. And as a child, I didn't get that understanding when I was in my 20s.
Hmm.
I understand it now that I could look upon this and see it in a heightened focus of like that view. What
Yeah.
is the 60 seconds now valued at?
Yeah.
What is the highest possible gain, not just personal gain, but let's look at it from the corporate sense. I'm going to be involved with this political party that's talking about these things and wanting to accomplish that. Okay, divine first. What is the highest possible gain in our opportunity to share in this dialogue? Is it my personal desire for an outcome, or is the body going to reveal to me, meaning the group of people going to reveal to me that even though I thought this might be a better idea? If we're poised to be actively listening, actively seeking God within our thought process,
Hmm.
and not taking on offense. Well, they rejected my idea and didn't even get to hear it. Well, I mean, think about the ludicrous. I actually heard somebody saying that once. They rejected my idea and never even got to hear it. So they automatically saw it as rejection in the fact they weren't able to present their idea.
Yeah.
And they're already offended by the fact that they didn't have, they could notify the group, listen, I had a phenomenal idea, but I wasn't able to present it in the meeting. Is there any chance you're willing to forward this idea to the group without offense?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, oh, that's a great idea. We didn't know you had an idea. Things got so busy, we lost, we were rushing for time and keeping the order in the minutes and just it unfolded. We're so sorry. Can you please send us the idea? Boom. And then it goes out to the group. And now, maybe if it's even a higher return, because now the intensity of the group and the rushing of the thoughts and the considerations, yours presents as a single thought for people to review.
Mm. Instead of in the midst of all
Yeah.
the,
And instead of you being offended, hurt, shut down, angry, and not offering, you're now in this expression of creation, offering, expanse, growth, and they're grateful to be a part of it.
so what I'm getting out of this is it requires discernment
It does.
of your own, going within. Because, I was thinking when I mentioned corporate institutions and the bigger society, I was putting myself into a situation where I would be maybe in a career for 30 years, and
Hmm.
I have not valued that 30 years
Right.
how I could have,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
So, but in retrospect, I can't change it, first and
Hmm.
foremost. But also, when I'm in the midst of that, I cannot change it or influence it without going within
Yes.
and seeking the divine. I
Which
think that's what you're
requires
saying.
giving yourself permission to take a breath.
Yeah.
When somebody asks a question, you are not responsible to respond immediately.
Hmm.
You have every right to say the greater value of this moment is to breathe.
Mm.
And I surrender into the living kingdom of God within me. I can only connect to that through the divine breath that is within me. So I'm going to breathe.
Hmm.
And I can respond with what they call like softening statements or whatever. That's a really good question. It's a really good question. I really appreciate the fact that you brought it forward. That buys you another breath. And then instead of reaction mode, you're into response, valuing the next 60 seconds.
Hmm.
There's a higher value. I can see you're pretty hurt by what you just asked and you want to know an answer. At this point, I honestly don't have an answer. Do you mind if I do a little bit of homework and figure it out? Well, that would be great because then they see you valuing what they offer. Or, I can see how this came about, but are you okay? And you return with a question to them.
Mm.
I can see it's pretty sensitive in you. Are you okay? No, because of what you did. Well, please forgive me.
Mm.
And so again, it changes the dynamic. Instead of trying to foist what I have an immediate response, let it take hold, let it take shape, allow the fact that the person needs to bring more content forward, especially if they're heightened in their presentation, and look at it and say, how can I be refined in this? What's the greatest value of the 60 seconds? So again, now I've just lost this person. They're going to call me and they're only permitted 60 seconds to talk to me. What's the highest possible return of that 60 seconds?
Hmm.
And in my personal opinion, it is that breath, that centering upon God's presence, allowing for the the living breath of God to govern my approach to God and my response to those in front of me.
And just to slowly wrap it up, one other thought came to mind, and
Okay.
that is the question of speed and slowing down.
Yeah.
That really what it comes down to is we are used to be fast. We
Yeah.
have to be fast. Things are happening fast, right? So all we need to do is slowing down. What you just demonstrated
Exactly.
with that breath, taking the breath, slowing down, letting the divine in,
Yeah.
that's slowing down. And I think that's a key as well, that we
Agreed.
don't have to feel rushed all the time into solutions, into responses.
Yep. Well, even like today, you were a perfect example of it. I mean, here we wanted to sit down and do the video.
Yeah.
But then, no, let's wait a minute because the sun's going to shift and it's going to move and it won't be like blasting us out on the screen and stuff. So there was temperance, there was balance. And then you
Yeah.
were able to respond to your loving wife and connect with her and deal with that. I was able to deal with a couple prayer situations with individuals that were asking to move them to the time when I'm going to be present and available for them. And it became of value.
Yeah.
Then we were gifted this time. And what's the highest gain? You looked at it and said, hey, I think I'm going to pull this. And you pull out a thought that becomes the theme of a conversation. So, and we weren't pressed to get it done,
Yeah.
but we were allowing for it to present and unfold.
Yeah.
And if you would think about it, when you first pulled that card out, did the conversation go in the direction of that card?
No.
Right, exactly. It went to a direction of empowerment and strength, not how the card presented.
Yeah,
Because the
exactly.
card presented in kind of a very negative stance.
Yeah.
Now we're in this positive empowerment of what is the highest value of the 60 seconds of this engagement?
Yeah.
What is the opportunity to bring this for the higher return?
Yeah. Just for the clarification for the listeners, I have a deck of cards with like 100 questions to pull from, random questions, and
Yeah.
the question was more on the negative
Yeah.
side, and it just flowed in the
Yes.
right direction.
Because we allowed got in,
Yeah.
not just the card, but got in first and then said, okay, let's see where the
Yeah.
conversation goes.
Good. And I enjoyed this
This
conversation,
was
let me
good.
say.
Yeah, I loved
Yeah, it
it.
was
Yeah.
great. So everyone listening, go to gracehealing.org, go to gracehealing.video. That's our YouTube channel where we have many of
Yes,
these discussions, where you can learn more and pick more of those thoughts. And we're going to make more videos, right?
most
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
without a
That's
doubt.
great. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for your attention and your valued time.
Yes, blessings.
Bye. Blessings.